Is the Army recruiting process really that different from what the Marine Corps does? Well, it might not be what you think. See, I spent 13 years in the Marine Corps, and 3 of that was as a recruiter, which is why I've got all these stupid awards that none of you care about for being the Recruiter of the Month and the Staff NCOIC of the Month, the Staff NCOIC of the Year, and yada, yada, yada. I spent time as a recruiter. Now I help service members and vets build wealth and achieve their wildest dreams out of the service, but I wanted to talk about the difference between these two processes. The very first difference in the process is the feel. And what I mean by that is with a Marine and a Marine recruiter, you're going to meet, we'll call it me, right? You meet me, Sergeant Perret at the time. We'd sit down. We would talk about the Marine Corps, what you're looking to get out of the military, how the Marine Corps can help you meet those needs. We'd make sure you'd pass the ASVAB. We'd help you pass the ASVAB and schedule your test. Then, if you said you wanted to become a Marine, we'd send you to MEPS, and as long as you were qualified, you'd get ready for boot camp. You'd go to MEPS, you'd go to boot camp, you'd be a Marine, you'd come back, and you'd be like, high five, Sergeant Perret, you're the man. And that was the process. There was a Staff NCOIC involved as like the kind of oversight to what I did, and then eventually I was the Staff NCOIC, but it was me. The only reason you would change recruiters is if my recruiting duty tour ended, in which case we do a very formal, we call them orphans, but a very formal handoff of our orphans, of all the people I recruited, to the next recruiter, and that one recruiter would take care of you all the way until you went to MEPS and went to boot camp, right? One person. With the Army, it's not that way. You'll meet someone at the school. It may or may not be the same person you do the interview with. You'll do the interview. Once you go to MEPS, you come back, you'll have a future soldier program person whose only job is to get you ready for boot camp. And so you'll get handed off once, twice, maybe 3 times. Then eventually you'll go to boot camp. For example, when I was a recruiter in my area, we had 4 recruiters and a boss. So we were a 4 and 1. And the Army had 2 stations in my town with a total of 16 recruiters. And then they had other stations within my AO with recruiters I never really ran into, like because their area was broken out differently. But they had at least 16 recruiters in an office to our 5, and yet by data, by market share, the last year I was a recruiter, we recruited 5% more people who joined the military, joined the Marine Corps than the Army in that year. Now that's, again, it's going to be different no matter where you are, but I'm just saying, like, we were much more efficient because we didn't pass people around. We run as a like startup business. That's how the Marine Corps operates. This just in, you're new to watching the channel, you're enjoying this video, and yet you're not in the school community. So I wanted to throw this out there real quick. If you are interested in surrounding yourself with like-minded people who have similar goals and really learning how to build wealth in the military and take your service to that next level, scan this QR code to check out our new school community. It's got hundreds of people in it who are crushing. We've got mentors, we've got leaders, we've got enlisted, we've got officers, we've got general officers, we've got studs in this community. It is a great place to ask questions where you're not going to get scammed by a bunch of bullshit. I'd love to have you in there. Another very key difference is the job selection process. The Army likes to throw things around like guaranteed job before you go to MEPS, and the Marine Corps doesn't. We will never talk jobs with you or guarantee you a job or sign a job contract before you go to MEPS. And here's the reason for that. On the Marine Corps side, the reason is simple. I don't actually know what jobs you're qualified for until you go to MEPS. Now, I'm doing a video on this, but there are things such as color vision, waivers required, height even, that can disqualify you from certain jobs. For example, I have a friend, and yes, we still talk, we still hang out, we grab a beer on the Marine Corps birthday. I'm good friends with his older brother, I'm friends with him, his name is Josh, I'm not gonna give you a last name. I recruited this applicant. He was cool even then. He was closer to my age than the high school kids. He came out of college, and he was a stud. Jacked, wrestler, you know, smart dude, crushed his ASVAB. Army would have instantly guaranteed him whatever job. He would have been like, ooh, I'm gonna be all these awesome jobs. Goes to MEPS, colorblind. That disqualifies you. Color vision is like the single largest disqualifier of jobs in the military. And again, I'm gonna do a full video on all this and what those jobs are, so just stand by. But color vision, not good. Army recruiter doesn't know that. He guarantees you a job, you go to MEPS, you pass MEPS, you come back, now you're sworn into the delayed entry program, so you would have to discharge because the job you were guaranteed no longer exists for you because you're colorblind, and whether you knew it or not, that sucks. And so the Army will guarantee you go to MEPS, you come back, and then they're like, oh, that sucks, but hey, you're in the DEP, here's what you have as options, you can't discharge. Whereas the Marines are like, we're gonna send you up there, And once we actually know what you're qualified for and you come back here, then we'll talk jobs. So we're not promising you all this shit because we don't sell you on a job. We sell you on being a Marine, and the job comes secondary. Whereas the Army sells you on a job, and you could give shit about being a soldier, and then you come back and you're like, well, now what? I don't get that job. So it's just a difference in how we do it. That's why the Marine Corps doesn't talk jobs beforehand. Now, even after the fact, it is different. And in this part, I would say the Army might be a little bit better because once you know exactly what you're qualified for, you can pick a specific MOS as long as that slot's open. Good. The Marine Corps does it by like job code. So you would pick logistics, and that might be an embarker or a logistics rep or transport or whatever. You pick infantry. You're not going to know if you're a machine gunner, a sniper. Well, you wouldn't be sniper till later, but a machine gunner, a mortarman, a rifleman, until you get to infantry school. And at infantry school, they'll assess you to see which one fits you better halfway through. Whereas, or you go intel, and we don't know which version of intel you're going to be because we're going to pick it at the MOS school based on both the needs of the Marine Corps, because someone's going to comment it, and what your aptitude is. Like what you're best fitted for. It's just like linguists. The Army will be like, you're guaranteed this language. And the Marine Corps is like, you're guaranteed a language. And we're going to see which ones are best suited for you based on your nationality and also your skill level in that specific language when you get there. So that's kind of the difference. I like our version because it leaves it open to a specific field and we kind of, with you, pick whatever the best option is. Whereas I also like the Army's option where you get to pick and that's it. But that may not be the best job for your skill sets so much as the best job for what you want, right? Like just because you really want a job might not mean that you're the best for it. And so it kind of sets you up for success or failure depending on how you look at it. That's the difference in job selection. Okay, the next one is bonuses. You're probably seeing this all over the internet right now. The Army is like slinging bonuses. God knows where their budget for training comes from because they give money out. They're just like, woo, you get a bonus, you get a bonus, you get a bonus, you get a bonus. I'm Oprah, woo, Oprah the Army, woo, Oprah, Oprah, bonus, bonus, bonus. It is what it is. The Marine Corps bonuses are an afterthought. We're like, do you want to be a Marine? Oh, what about a bonus? Do you want to be a Marine? Yes? No? Great. We aren't even going to tell you. Like, I sent a kid to boot camp. He had a bonus. He had earned a bonus for some, essentially we have like 1 or 2 options a year where we can like give a bonus to somebody who's really, really solid in the pool program. So whether they helped friends enlist or this kid helped, he had helped a bunch of kids lose weight. He helped kids study for the ASVAB. Like he would come in on his free time just to help other applicants. He was just a great dude. So we gave him that bonus. We didn't even tell him. He finds out after boot camp, after MOS school, money gets deposited and they're like, oh, that's your bonus. And he calls us and he's like, thanks. Like that's how we roll. We don't care. Like that's just not it. Now I got a bonus when I joined. It was 10 grand, which in 2008 felt like a ton of money. I got it because I was on an infantry contract and I switched to Motor T, Transportation Logistics 88 Mike in the Army, to go last minute to boot camp, or like to go, instead of like going in January, I shipped out in August on like a week's notice. And they gave me 10 grand for that, which was great. They were like, thanks for shipping early. They didn't tell me at the time that the reason for the bonus for Motor T was like, hey, all of the Motor T guys are getting blown up in Afghanistan right now and getting hurt. So we need more of y'all. Nobody wants to do it. Here's some money. It is what it is. It was the adventure of a lifetime. I loved it. I did get blown up, but life goes on. So the Army uses bonuses as a selling point, as a way to convince you to join the Army. They're like, please, we'll give you money. We need you. And the Marine Corps uses bonuses as an afterthought. We do have them. They're not as many. They're not as lucrative. There are some MOSs where they are, but they're an afterthought. You don't join the Marines because of a bonus. You join the Marines because of the intangibles, the pride, the challenge, the uniform, like the things, the prestige of being a United States Marine. You join the Army, and in some, I can't tell you it's not because of the money, because that's how they're selling it. So there are those other reasons, but that's not their lead selling point. Which, by the way, may or may not have something to do with why the Army hasn't made mission in years and the Marine Corps hasn't missed mission in years. It is a cultural thing. Okay, the sales process. The Army, when I talk to these recruiters, now I've never sat through their application process, but my understanding is that they have a pretty cookie cutter like sales pitch / like this is what the Army has to offer. Look at all these things you can do, blah, 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 that you sit through. And it's very similar to anyone and everyone going through that process. It's a ton of information. It's like, here, open up, fire hose, like drink from the fire hose, you'll be fine. And then they're like, do you want to be in the Army? And you're like, yeah, I already did. That's why I was here. I didn't have to sit through this bullshit. And then they sign you up. The Marine Corps, we use the consultative selling process. We call it the MC3, but it's the Marine Corps consultative sales process, or consultative selling, whatever, however you want to word it, whatever. And essentially what we do is we have these things called benefit tags. There's 11 of them. And we lay them out on the table, and they're things like travel and adventure, courage, poise, self-confidence, physical fitness, financial security, discipline. There's 11 of them, right? And we say, hey, look at all these. Which 3 stand out to you the most? And you might be like, physical fitness, travel and adventure, financial security. And we're like, great. So tell me, why is physical fitness so important to you? And then you'll be like, because I don't want to get fat. And I'm like, okay, but like really, why? And we dig and dig and dig and dig until we find that like root cause motivator. Like maybe your grandpa died at a super early age because he was really overweight and had a lot of health complications. And that's the motivator. And then what we do is we take your true like need, want, motivation for wanting to join the military and better yourself, and we sell to that. We have this fancy book with like tons of things. I have mine laying around somewhere. I should go find it. With like tons of benefits for that thing. And then we customize it. So like I would add in pictures of me doing things or whatever, like customize these books so that we can talk to specifically what you want out of the military. And I can be like, dude, physical fitness, this is our boot camp versus the others. Like this is our standard of fitness versus the others. This is, our PT versus the others. These are our gyms versus the others. Like all these reasons why the Marine Corps can give you exactly what you need. Does that make sense? Like, does that sound like it would help you get that fitness? And we go through your top 3 and we dig into why you want those things and show you exactly how we can help. So it is a fully customized process based on what you really want out of life and showing you how we can get it. So our process in that regard, I think, is much better and also tailored to the needs and desires of the applicant. Okay, here's an easy one. The Marine Corps doesn't really have working hours, and the Army has working hours. Now, there are probably Army recruiters who go to bed at late and stay in the office and whatever, but when I was on recruiting duty, and I don't know if this is still the case, the Army was told that they had to be home. I don't remember if it was 5 or 6 p.m., but it was like Monday through Friday, either 5 or 6 p.m., all your recruiters are out of the office is shut, you guys are home, like, go live your life, don't kill yourself, recruiting's hard, we get it, we want to take care of you, whatever. And the Marine Corps was like, if you haven't made mission, go the to Walmart and find a who wants to join the service. And I joke about that. I hesitate to tell you stories about some of the things we did when we were missing mission on recruiting duty because you won't believe them. You will be like, wow, there's no way that's true. Unless you were to meet the other person. And I guarantee there are other people who have the other side of the story. So for example, there was a time we were behind on mission. Master Sergeant at the time, now retired Master Gunnery Sergeant, I'm not gonna name his last name, but starts with a P, and I were driving around Springfield after hours in the government rental van, and we were going to bus stops. And we went to this bus stop. This kid sitting there, he looked like he was in the age parameters to join the military, and I roll my window down, we're in like dress blue deltas, so like the khaki shirt and blue pants, and I'm like, yo, you wanna ride? Like it's pouring rain. I'm like, do you want to wait for the bus? We can get you. Where are you going? He's like, downtown. I'm like, cool, we'll take you. So he gets in the back of the car with me and this Master Sergeant. And as soon as he gets in the car, we're like, so what are you doing with your life? Oh, that's great. So have you ever thought about the military? And like, ends up he has. And then I start screening. And I'm like, instantly disqualified. I don't remember if it was tattoos or legal or something, but it was like the first like 3 questions, it was like nothing I can do for this kid. So then the whole rest of the car ride was like super awkward because I'm like, yeah, we'll be in touch. Like, yeah, or I'm like, oh, well, we'll see if the Army can help you or whatever. I don't remember. And we drop him off and I'm like, all right, bye. And then we go to another bus stop. Me and that same Master Sergeant at one time, we were in a Walmart at like 1 a.m. And he's like handing out business cards. Like, if you ever want a better job than stacking boxes at midnight, let me know. And I'm in my head, I'm like, dude, this kid's looking at us like, why the fuck would I join the Marine Corps if they're walking around a Walmart at 1 a.m. talking to losers like me? Like, so funny. That said, Marines work until they make mission, whereas the Army has hours and whatever. So you can go by a Marine Corps office almost any evening after school if you're a high school student, and we will still be there. We're not going to like leave an hour after you get out of school, and we can meet with you outside of the high school, though I can also meet with you in the high school. Whereas the Army will try to meet with you during high school time, whether in the school or like immediately after. So if you're on a sports team, neither of those works. It might be hard to reach out with an Army recruiter. I would meet with you on a Saturday, like whatever. Total sidebar. The reason I only did Army Marines is because I didn't work a ton with Navy Air Force, but I will tell you this. The Air Force recruiters, good luck getting a hold of them. They just don't show up to work. Like I used to tell kids like, yo, I get it. You're torn between us and the Air Force. Cool. Here's the Air Force's number. Here's the Air Force's recruiting station. Go by and talk to them. If you haven't gotten a hold of them in a week, yeah, that probably tells you how much they care about you. Come back. And they almost always came back because they couldn't get a hold of the damn recruiter. Okay. One other thing that is different is that the Marines don't take ASVAB waivers. So 31 is the cutoff for every branch of service. Under 31, you're what's called a Cat 4, which is, I think it's 23 to 31 is a Cat 4, which is a waiver for joining the military. And anything under 23 or 24, whatever that number is, I don't actually know what they call that. Maybe Cat 5, I don't know. We don't touch them. And probably Cat 5. And the Cat 4 waivers, that 23 to 31, that's where I got that Army Achievement Medal write-up. Because anyone who was like in the mid-20s that we couldn't touch, every like September, October, when the Army was about to miss mission, they would open up the floodgates and they'd be like, send us your ASVAB waivers, we'll run the waiver. And they would run the waiver and they'd enlist the Cat 4s. We would not. Side note, people don't know this. Everyone thinks the Marine Corps is dum-dums. The Air Force, everyone thinks they're smart as all get out. They do have a lot of what we call alphas, which is anyone who scores a 51 or higher on the ASVAB, or a 50 or higher on the ASVAB is an alpha, like a Cat 1, Cat A. And the Air Force prides themselves on that having like a very high alpha percentage. They just like, there's this correlation that smart people join the Air Force, and so people have that idea, but then the Air Force makes missions, so they have the ability to just be like, we don't want you, we don't want you, we don't want you, we don't want you. Oh, he's smart, we'll take him. And that's why they ignore so many people. The Marine Corps is the only branch that actually has a requirement for an alpha percentage. So as a recruiter, you have to maintain, I think it's 64% of everybody you enlist is an alpha, meaning 64% or more of the people I enlist have to get a 50 on the ASVAB or higher. If I drop below that rating, the MEPS station will literally say, sorry, you can't enlist that kid yet. You have to send up 2 people who have a 50 or higher to balance your ratio out, then you can enlist that kid. That was the honest God's truth. And so we actually have the only requirement for an alpha percentage, unless that's changed in the last few years, of any branch of service. And the Army would open up ASVAB waivers every year. And right now they're actually doing a thing, and I don't think they're the only branch who started doing this, but where if you haven't passed the ASVAB, even if you haven't passed the fitness, they'll send you to like a pre-boot camp where all you do is math and algebra and English and like practice the ASVAB and run your ass off. And eventually you pass the fitness test, you pass the ASVAB, now you go to real boot camp. We still won't touch ASVAB waivers. And yet we make mission, they don't. And I'd say the last major difference here is that the Army has a program where you can go to boot camp during the summer between your junior and senior year. And so you can spend your entire senior year as a soldier in the Army. I say soldier because it's only for reserves, and I don't like this program for 2 things. One, I'm a believer that this program was started in large part because the Army lacked the ability to pull people into the Army Reserves, so they were like, wait, what if we just open the doors up a year before any other service? That way, the impatient kids can join right now, and we'll get them in the Army before any other branch is even legally allowed to talk to them. I can't talk to you as an applicant until you're 17 and I have parental consent, or 18. And I can't talk to you until you're the summer prior to your senior year. So if the Army has already been in front of you, recruited you, sent you to boot camp before I'm even allowed to talk to you, that gives them a leg up on getting you in the reserves. The reason I don't like this program is twofold. One, like, I want you to be focused on the Marine Corps. Like, I want you to be focused your senior year. I want you to succeed your senior year. If you do that whole program and then bomb your senior year and fail to get your high school diploma, you can get discharged. And even if you get your GED and your credits, or even if you get your GED until you get college credit, like there's a whole thing there. And so I didn't like that pressure on kids, especially if they were athletes. I'd rather them focus on their senior year, enjoy their senior year, go to boot camp after, and then be on their way. 2, the Army often doesn't tell people that you're in the reserves. There's not a, like, oh, now that I graduated high school, I'm going to go active duty. Like, no, you signed up for the reserves. You're in the reserves. Sorry, sucks to suck. You bit the bullet. You were impatient. Like, it is what it is. And so now you're stuck in the reserves when really you were so eager to join the military and get out of the freaking boot, get out of the way, get out of Dodge, whatever, go and serve the military. And now you're stuck in your hometown for the 6-year contract you signed up with, unless you can manage to get an active duty slot, which is very, 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 very unlikely unless an actual, like, no war kicks off. So yeah, not a huge fan of that program. We don't offer it. Okay, so this was my video on Army versus Marine recruiting. I'd like to just throw this out there real quick. If you haven't done so already, down below in the description, there is a link to go download a free copy of my book. So I've got this book, which I should have already been holding, The OBS Guide to Military Life, How to Build Wealth, Get Promoted, and Achieve Greatness. It is a chronological, like, from the day you go to boot camp forward, everything I wish I'd known about joining the military. It has VA loans and TSP and building wealth and career decisions and benefits and all kinds of stuff that you want to know how to navigate. And yes, I sell the book on Amazon, or I narrated it myself, and you can listen to it on Audible, but you can download it for free right below. And I would encourage you to do that before you go to boot camp, because it'll really help you set yourself up for success. So there it is. If you haven't done so, subscribe, comment what you got out of this video. Have a great day.